You're listening to WSUW 91.7 FM, The Edge, in Whitewater, Wisconsin. This is Rashkin Report, and I'm your host, Yuri Rashkin. On today's program, I'm excited to welcome to the conversation Alexander Flint. Alexander is a blogger, and he does something very unusual, but a little bit more about that in a second. Alexander, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
And just so the listeners know, it seems like all of our guests are usually long distance. I don't know that I've spoken to anybody in Whitewater for a Rashkin Report yet. Where are you located?
Well, I'm right on the border of New York and New Jersey. So I'm a New Jersey boy, but it's right across the bridge from New York.
Nice. So closer than
New York City metropolitan area, basically. So like we're all in a shadow of a big city.
Right. It's like if I say to somebody in New York where I live, I just basically say Chicago because otherwise it just gets confusing.
Right. Absolutely.
All right. So Alexander does something unique. Alexander writes about America. Okay, fine. That may not sound very unique, but he writes about it for Russians. Okay, that's getting a little different. And he's doing it in Russian. Okay, now I'm confused. What is this all about? If you, as 99.9% of our listeners may not know, our State Department does all sorts of outreach efforts. And one of such efforts to Soviet Union was a magazine called America. And people would read about America in regular Russian words, and it was considered one of those signs of soft power. Well, my guest exhibits a lot of soft power the other way. He's busy promoting America. Alexander, I think it's a very exciting project. What made you want to do it?
Well, it started as a knowledge that despite all these efforts by the State Department and some radio stations and everything, the Russian populace and the Russian community, even in the United States, actually know very, very little about the United States of America. They know about their immediate area, maybe, but they don't know any particular details. They don't know nothing about nature, nothing about the country, nothing about customs, almost nothing about laws. And so it's a huge field that you can just start from point A and just go to point B forever. And it's just exciting to explain certain things because, you would think that, let's say, American Constitution is complicated. No, that's actually apparently pretty easy to understand. But certain mundane things that actually happen every day, these are the ones that actually awe people to the point that, oh my God, this is, I would never expect that. So you have to take one step at a time and take it from the very, very basics, and supposedly some people will like it a lot.
Where do you get your material? Do you listen to feedback from your audience, or are you more concerned about just sharing things that you come across every day, or how do you pick your topics for your blog posts? Well,
that's a very good question. Usually I came up with my own topics because it is just, our life that I would say, for instance, drive in the car and I see something exciting or something interesting or just something comes to my mind, and I just come home and write about it. And also there's, let's say, for instance, 25%, like my listeners or my readers, they just ask me the questions, and I can build on that, and and I can come up with some sort of answers and everything like that. Like, for instance, certain particular relations between United States and Ukraine. I didn't know about it. They asked about some particular laws that's supposed to be passed. I find out about laws. I write about them, and so a lot of people actually were using this information because apparently they didn't know. They didn't know because it's only one guy that asked me about it, just randomly, and I just used it just so that they can use it as a big information for themselves.
I think it is a fair question at this point to ask, what is your background yourself, education-wise? Because if you are this kind of our information center, then why should people listen to you?
Well, I started as a historian, And that was my first education still all the way back in Russia. And over here, I continued my education. I went to political science, philosophy, also economy, and so it's mostly a lot of background in terms of humanitarian sciences, and all of that comes together, gives me a lot of perspective on what I'm doing. Also, I just do a lot of reading, a lot of books, and that helps absolutely, because a lot of topics, once again, very, very mundane, very, very basic. They exist just in the books that are just around us, and you just need to pick it up and just explain it.
Alexander, tell me this. What do you feel are some of the similarities that your audience finds or that you see between Russians and Americans? Because when people ask me about Russia and I tell them about some of the broad trends, because I try to stay away from specifics, not to give people headaches, people go, well, that sounds just like here. Do you feel that there is a similarity between Russia and America?
Well, all people are similar in certain particular ways, because we all die, we all want to produce children, we want to get married, we have basically the same goals in life, to promote ourselves, to promote our families. So all of that is similar to any kind of a person, not just Russian American, but I mean everyone that lives in this world. But on the other hand, what actually makes us differ, that's actually Confucius said, that it's our upbringing and our education. So if you take American education, if you take American upbringing over here together with the society around you, it's completely different what you have from what's going on in former Soviet Union and Russia in particular. And that actually makes the big difference, because people understand things completely differently. They see their role as a citizen, as a person completely different from Americans, and that actually tells, because once you start talking to people, oh my God, this is so different.
So what are Russian people amazed by about America? Because you have to do it and describe it for them. What do you find that your audience is amazed by?
Well, I'll give you one particular example so you understand. I explained them how the administration of United States works, for instance, from the level of Congress to the level of states to the level of counties and to the level of cities. And all of these levels basically independent from one above them, and actually can go to court against the one above them. And let's say, for instance, to talk about certain particular decisions that they disagree with. Let's say, for instance, there's this case right now going in North Carolina about the bathrooms, and where the state is actually going against the law from the federal center. And that is unheard of in Russia. This is completely unheard of, because over there the authority of Moscow over all the regions is completely absolute. And they don't understand how it is that the state, or God forbid the city, can go against the will of the president or the will of the parliament. Over here, this is very easy. Well, it's not easy, but it's legal. It's legal. It's happening, and that's this particular point. It was, oh my God, it cannot be happening. For them, it's very, very peculiar, because this is unheard of.
So whatever the center says, the provinces do, no matter what.
They have to. They have to. It's especially right now with the Putin's government being so authoritarian. It is there is no any way that some local governor can just turn around and say, I'm not going to do this because it's against the law, for instance. Even if it's going to be against the law, they're going to still do it.
You're listening to WSUW 91.7 FM, The Edge in Whitewater, Wisconsin. This is Rashkin Report, and I'm your host, Yuri Rashkin. And my guest today is Alexander Flint, a blogger based in New York metropolitan area, who writes about America in Russian for Russians. Now, Alexander, do you feel most of your audience is in Russia or in America, or where are your readers?
Oh, that's all over the place.
Where are Russian people these days?
They are in the United States. they're in Russia, they're in Ukraine. Actually, the Ukrainians that actually speak Ukrainian, they still speak to me in Russian, and they still read me, because there's a lot of things that I write about them is about American policy towards Ukraine. So they read me in Russian, and they spread it all over the place where they can spread it, because for them that's just another source of information that they need so desperately. I have some readers in Australia. I have some readers in Germany, but it's all over the place. It really is. Because
yeah, go ahead.
Because you see, I'm not trying to give anybody an official point of view. I'm just giving them what I think, what I know. And I'm not saying that I'm 100% right all the time. No, absolutely not. I say, this is my point of view, and this is what I know, and you certainly can disagree with me. If you have any facts, if you have any arguments, please bring them on, and let's argue, let's talk, let's decide. Two heads is better than one. And because of that, it's actually a very nice conversation most of the time. And, I get smarter and people get smarter, and everybody's pretty happy about it, because that's how we educate each other, in a way, by pointing out to our own deficiencies and by having this kind of friendly conversations and arguments.
Now, it's, I think, almost a shame that you and I are having this conversation in English. We're both clearly comfortable speaking this second language to us, and yet you write pretty extensively and all in Russian. How does that work?
Well, it is...
and what about those readers that may want to learn about America through your eyes that are not able to do that? Do they have to rely on Facebook Translate?
Some of them rely on Facebook Translate, but most of my audience is a Russian audience, because, once again, Americans are not going to be amazed or not going to be, majority are not going to be interested if I start talking, this is the sheriff, he's being elected in a county government. They know about it. For them, this is a daily routine. It is, you see, I speak to a lot of Americans sometimes, and what they keep telling me that they keep, how do they say it, that they take things for granted. And this is exactly what's going on. So they don't understand how it is that the local sheriff that is actually working as a police department chief of a county is being elected. For them, this is regular. For the Russians or for the Ukrainians, this is unheard of. So that's why there is such a big, broad topic of conversation, how it's supposed to be, because they look what I'm telling them, what's going on in the United States, and they take their own ideas and they say, yeah, we have to have the same, because we have a very corrupt system, and their American system is not comparing to us, so maybe we have to do something like they do. So it's a very good education for the masses, then in turn will show to their own rulers how it's supposed to be happening. And they start, that's how democracy works basically, in a way, because the people all the way in the grassroots, they start talking about it, and then these ideas go all the way up. So I hope that maybe my voice actually helps that in some way.
It almost sounds like you're writing for people in a jungle about how to use fork and knife, and people who use fork and knife regularly, they can appreciate it, but they're going to have a hard time being amazed by it.
I would not call this jungle. It's a very different society. I'm amazed sometimes by the amount of brains and amount of ingenuity that some of the people in Russia and Ukraine have. Since they're not accustomed to so much luxury and so much gadgets and so much goods as we do here, they can take, let's say, for instance, an old radio and turn it into a computer just in their home. And this is so amazing to me that they can just take a screwdriver and just do this. It takes a lot of expertise, but over there, that's a reality, because people have to survive. So from this point of view, it's absolutely not a jungle. But once you talk about the laws, once you talk about, let's say, for instance, how we live here, once you talk about American cuisine, once you talk about American cinema, once you talk how people work, how the tax system works here, that's actually absolutely amazing. That you can call, yes, it's a jungle they're comparing to us in that particular sense. So technically, it's not a society that knows nothing about nothing. No, absolutely not. It's a very, very advanced society with the people understanding very, very complicated things.
Alexander,
technical level.
Yes. I think there's a lot of engineers in Russia for some reason. Maybe there's something there in the water, or they have to, like you said, they have to.
Right. No, it's just people, mostly think from a technical point of view. They are illiterate from humanitarian point of view, but technically they're very, very educated.
And that's a really interesting, actually, conversation. If you imagine a person who's been trained not to really have ethics or morals, but are also very technically proficient. That's a very dangerous combination.
It is. And that's what exactly happening. And that's just another reason for me not to be silent, because at least I can. I don't call myself a teacher, God forbid. No, but if I can bring this information in and share it, and once again, it's a very mundane thing sometimes, then maybe I do something about it. Maybe people actually get smarter. They lose their naivety, that they have right now.
You're listening to WSUW 91.7 FM. This is Rashkin Report, and I'm your host, Yuri Rashkin. Joining me today is Alexander Flint, blogger from New York area, who is originally from Russia, as is the host of this program, and is writing in Russian, extensively explaining to his Russian reading audience what life in America is like. Alexander, let's reset a little bit about how do Russian people feel about America? Do you feel that this is, what feedback do you get back from explaining what life is like?
It is not my phrase, but I will still use it. It's called hate-love relationship. Russians and, Ukrainians and people across Eastern Europe, a lot of them actually look at with admiration on what's going on in the United States. They love it. And they see certain things that they say, yes, we need to do the same as Americans do. On the other hand, because of the propaganda, because of the current political climate, and because of the Russian government as it is right now, it is a lot of hate, especially it comes from the television. So sometimes you watch the television and it's completely ridiculous on what they're saying about America. So it depends on the person. You can talk to the Russian person about, let's say, American cuisine or about American culture, about American museums or cinema, and he would love to talk to you. But God forbid if you start talking about politics and it goes into domain that America versus Russia, then it can really become ugly right away. And that's probably the only explanation right now, because it used to be in my generation, about, say, 25 years ago, once the perestroika was going on, we were genuinely interested in America, and we never hated it. There was only love, really. Right now it's a love and a hate. And that's the big difference to what was happening before. People lost their desire to live under American system. They still like it, but they despise it. It's very difficult to explain, really. But that's what's happening right now.
Well, that's the situation as it is. And so what you're doing is there's a Russian politician, journalist, Lev Schlossberg, who advocates this idea of prosvещение, which seems more like literally would be enlightenment. But I'm not sure to what extent the word enlightenment actually translates the meaning. So And I think that's what you're doing as well, is you're bringing this general level of education, not on any specific thing, although in your case you do, but just the general idea, promoting certain ideas. What idea do you feel you're promoting?
That's a very good question, and there is no simple answer to that. I promote the idea of how America lives, what we breathe, what people think is important over here.
Is there an ideology there? Because in Russia they seem to be
Yes,
really demanding to have an ideology. Here in America we don't talk about it as much. We must have it, and they must be lacking, so they're talking about it a lot or something. But there's a certain ideology to this, I suppose.
Well, the ideology in the United States always was live and let live, despite what some people may say about it. That's what it is. Americans, they are interested internally, just to live a good life. Externally, they want to promote democracy as the instrument to good life, because it is proven that despite all its faults, all its problems, like Churchill used to say, democracy is still the best system. So that's a democratic. This is an American idea. To promote democracy is a way to a good life, and I think it's completely right. But Russians, they have a big problem with the democracy, because democracy over there turned into chaos for some reason, and it didn't work really how it was supposed to. And as a result, people turned around and they say, no, we don't want it. We're better off living with a dictatorship, which is completely wrong. They just didn't do what was supposed to be done. But, that's a totally all different conversation about it. But nonetheless, as of right now, they see this American idea as a danger to them, not as a boon to them. So that's a very, very big difference to what it used to be coming. So I think my ideology is pro-American ideology. It's not particularly, this politics or that. It's just pro-American ideology, how we live, how we want others to live. That's probably it, because there's nothing else.
Alexander Flint presenting a view of America by a Russian from America in Russian, promoting the idea of America. Thank you for doing it, and thank you for being on the program. I hope we can continue this conversation in the future.
Absolutely. Anytime. Thank you.
Thank you. You're listening to 91.7 FM, WSUW, in Whitewater, Wisconsin. You're listening to Rashkin Report.